So my name is Alex Van Note, and I'm here with ecologist Kara Washburn. This is my podcast for environmental philosophy. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Kara Washburn, and I am a volunteer ecologist for Southern Africa Field Conservation Project. I have an associate's degree in animal management from New York, and I have a bachelor's degree in ecology from Northern Michigan University.
So what is Southern Africa Field Conservation Project?
It is a group of people who love conservation, who love community, who had been to Africa every year since 2018. My mom and I had been for 3 or 4 times, and then in 2021 we took our friend Mike, and Mike is really the one who hit the ground with the wheels rolling. He went there once, he fell in love with what we were doing on the Rhino Reserve. At that point, nothing was really going on volunteer-wise other than us joining this program over there in Zimbabwe. We had never thought that we could do anything ourselves, so we just were doing what we could with the group over there. And then when we came back in 2021 with our friend Mike, he was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna create this volunteer program. My first thing I want to do is bring tools to the anti-poaching unit that worked on this reserve. So from there, we were like, all right, we want in. And as of right now, it's my friend Mike, my mom, and I, and we have been over there every year since 2021, either bringing supplies or bringing volunteers to do a different program. So we're no longer doing the original volunteer program we were doing. We're doing a ton outside of it. So we started with wanting to do things for the anti-poaching. We wanted everything anti-poaching. We want to protect the animals. We want to supply these rangers with what they need. So we took tools, we supplied weapons, clothing, everything that they needed, we supplied them. And then things kind of got broader because we did develop a family there, and they were like, okay, this unit's pretty much taken care of. Let's see what else is out there. So we got hooked up with a school, and we brought over, I think there was like 6 suitcases that were 50 pounds each that had school supplies. It was notebooks, it was backpacks, it was water bottles, it was shoes, it was anything they needed. So that kind of started our love for the community aspect. And then we, in the past couple of years, we've been working with different organizations that have anti-poaching units or ecologists, and we've taken over 200 camera traps for different programs. We have worked with a new school that we just adopted called Lambeau Primary School, and we paid local labor to put in a huge stock tank that holds water and a new pump. So before, the school had no water, and now they have a pump that is right there next to the school. They have the pump that leads water to this really big tank, and then from this tank they have pipes that go to each classroom, to the teachers where they stay, their houses. So that whole little unit has access to fresh water 24/7 now, which is super awesome. Our goal basically as a volunteer project or as a nonprofit is to help animals deal with climate change and what that's bringing to them, and then help community.
So what exactly is happening in this area of Africa that made you guys choose to focus your attention here?
What's happening is drought, and that's forcing animals to look really far and wide for any source of water and or vegetation. So these elephants are tearing apart these trees. So these really big trees, they will go up and there's no nutrition on the leaves or anything, so they peel the bark with their tusks, and then they grab it with their mouth and they pull the bark. And one specific species of tree, the bark will peel all the way up. So they're stripping these trees of their protection and completely killing them. So what we're doing is we're taking chain link and we're wrapping the trunk of that tree. And this still allows the tree to grow through it. So now when the elephants nick at the bark, they're only gonna be able to take off chunks. So instead of stripping the tree of its bark, they're still gonna get the nutrition they want and they need, but just in little chunks. So it's not gonna do as much damage to these trees. There are some trees so what's happening and why it's super detrimental to these trees is because the main area that the elephants are attacking, basically, is shrinking in size. So it's creating a lollipop with this tree. So its center, or its bottom is big, its middle is shrinking, but then its top is big. So that creates a lot of weight and the tree falls over. You're seeing as you drive through it, these once cathedral forests, so these big trees that created this really massive forest with a ton of undergrowth, they're non-existent anymore. So these mapani is a really good example. They are actually changing fast with the elephant impact. So they are learning to evolve because they'll be completely knocked over, but then they grow up from there. So they turn into a shrub, basically. So you're driving through what should have been a cathedral forest and it's just all shrubs. And you might think that that's fine and that's okay, but it's not, because now everything that would normally grow in the understory can't, because it's getting so much direct sunlight because it doesn't have the shade from the cathedral forest. And also giraffes. Giraffe shouldn't have to bend over to eat their food. They need to be looking up. So we're hoping, obviously we're not gonna really stop it, but we're hoping with some of these really important trees that are providing fruit through their winter season, if we can protect them, we can save nutrients, we can help the trees, we can help the animals, we can help the undergrowth, all of that. And then we actually are working with Bayesian Trust, who's a really big presence in Wangi National Park. I love Wangi National Park. And they do a lot with rhino. So we just sent over some camera traps for them because they're working on transferring some rhino from this reserve to Wangi National Park to add to the genetic pool, to hopefully build that population in there. And I think with the anti-poaching unit in Wangi, there hasn't been a poached animal since like 2019. So that's super cool. Yeah. We're also working with an anti-poaching unit in Zambezi National Park. And that's really close to Victoria Falls, but we're doing kind of similar things with those guys. We're providing them with tents for when they go out on their walks. We're providing them with tools. We're providing them with weapons. We're providing them with vehicle maintenance. So it's super awesome that we're able to do that with the funding that we've been able to raise. It's super cool. So a ton of work to be able to get the funding and be able to do what we're doing, but our presence over there is growing and we're doing a ton of cool stuff. So it's really awesome.
What does the future for SAFCP look like?
So right now we are working on our very first volunteer project that we are running. So it's called Musango Volunteer Project, and what we're going to do is we're going to take about 8 volunteers from all around the world to Woodlands Community Reserve, Victoria Falls. And we're going to follow a similar pattern to what we've done in the past. And all of these like-minded people who are passionate about ecology, conservation, community, we're all going to get together and we're going to do conservation work. And then after that, we're hoping to work with some different partners and grow this specific volunteer project to year round and bring in a bunch of money for conservation. And it's super exciting. Yeah.
How has working with this program impacted your own personal life and views?
I got really close to this ecologist, and his name is Ian. Sitting down with him and talking to him about a lot of things gives you an extreme outside perspective of what you think is going on there. Ian had a conversation with an elder from a village one time, and they were talking about the frustrations of the economy and kind of what's going on, and this elder told him, she was like, we are being forced to stay like this. Like, we are being forced to stay as a third world country because that's what's bringing in the people. That's what's bringing in tourism, is their biggest moneymaker. And if you kill all the elephants, put a bunch of duplexes in and malls and apartments and like all these things to build this community, your tourism leaves. When I was just there, elephants were already thin. And it was at the very beginning of the dry season, because of all of the destruction that's happening that they can't control, that they're doing because human populations are growing and not making space or being respectful of the environment around them. So it's creating human wildlife conflict, and these elephant populations are growing, and the government doesn't want to take a single one out because what's that going to look like to the outside world? You're going to lose your tourism. Like, so the government's like, absolutely not, this isn't going to work, even though the ivory could benefit the government and the economy. The meat would feed everybody, and that's going to save the elephants that are still on the earth, the heartache and the long distance walking for water, and the trees that are being torn down because there's just not enough food. That was also a really eye-opening conversation that I had with the ecologist, because I went over there as someone who was like, this is just how it is, and they're dying and they're underpopulated and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, no, actually they're overpopulated. And so being able to work honestly with Ian, he has opened my eyes to things and changed my mind and things. And when I walked in, it was a happy thing, and I was like, look at what we're doing and it's amazing. But when I'm there, it's heartbreaking. I was excited, and I'm still excited to do what I'm doing, but when you're inside and you're seeing things from that point of view, it is sad, because you're seeing the insane impact that humans are having on this planet and what it's doing to these animals. So I was hoping to be like, it's been amazing and it's awesome and it's the best thing ever, and it is, but it's really sad when you know the truth and you see the truth and you see why you have to do these things. But it's all worth it, because you're already seeing the impact of some of these trees that have been wrapped. You're already seeing an impact with these communities that now have access to water. So it's growing and it's beautiful, but the nitty gritty is it's not pleasant.
So how would somebody who's passionate in conservation, or just somebody who's not already involved, get involved with something like this?
Yeah, so if they're interested in exactly what we're doing with African wildlife and with conservation over there, and kind of what I've been saying, we do have a website, we have social media, Instagram, Facebook, SAFCP.org. You can Google us, any of that. If they're looking to just kind of see what's out there for conservation and wildlife and community, WWF, so World Wildlife Fund, they are extremely reputable. I know some people who work with them. They're really awesome. BBC is really good as well. And then the Australia Zoo. Honestly, an internet search, but carefully, because you want to make sure that the website is reputable and the people behind it are doing what they're say they're doing. If you go to WWF or SAFCP.org, there is contact information, so you can reach out before you jump into anything, whether that's funding them financially or any volunteer programs. Make sure you talk to a person, and don't just throw your money and your time at things that aren't real. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for all of those resources you shared, and personal experiences and information regarding conservation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love to be able to share my story and to give people an inside look on what's actually happening out there, because like I said, you're on the outside and you think these things are happening and they're going on a certain way, and yeah, you think they're bad and they are bad, but to be able to give real personal experiences and real stories really does, it adds some emotion to it. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity.
Of course.